Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. All right, welcome back. NFL season football forecast, week 9. Interesting week last week. Some ups, some downs, some outcomes we didn't expect. And we have a lot of people this week, some new, some old, some returning. I'll get to that in a moment. But make sure you follow the football forecast on social media at TFB Forecast, ETB across all social media platforms. So make sure you check us out on there. Follow our YouTube channel for the podcast network, youtube.com/ETB Network, as we get closer and closer to 900 subscribers and 1,000. So please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know the drill by now. And if you can't watch us on the video site, listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts. That's all platforms: Spotify, Apple, iHeart, YouTube Premium. Anywhere you get audio, we are probably on it. So make sure you check us out there as well. And the Football Forecast and the ETB Network presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. Ben, you were part of a stream that you and I did of an NBA whip around stream. We had a lot of fun doing that. We got everybody's fandoms in there. Your Celtics, my Nets, Zan's Bulls, the Knicks. Knicks. Yeah. Who finally decided to win. And I think Karl Anthony Towns had 40 points that night, if I'm not mistaken, also.
The game.
So a lot of fun. Playback.tv/ETB Network. Join our community, and you can see us fool around and clown around about sports. All right. A lot to catch up on here. Some new faces in here, some old faces in here. Grant, who's finally back after being sidelined for a few weeks, dealing with sickness, illness. Grant looks a lot better now. We're glad to have him back. So glad to have him back.
Yeah, glad to be back. I have missed talking about football, with you guys, with my own podcast, which actually is on YouTube and Apple Podcasts as well. It's called the Bear Claw Cast. If anyone that's watching this is interested, I'm returning after about 6 weeks of recovery time. So I have a lot to talk about, and we have a lot to talk about today, and I am excited to be back for it. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah, so Grant's back. And then there's another familiar face in here, which I haven't seen in quite a long time. Johnny Montalbano is back with us, and this is a show you and I really were in the forefront of when it first started.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, it's been, about 10 months since I've last done a football show, and a lot has changed since then, but it's good to be back on with you all. How are you guys doing, all right?
Yeah.
Good, Johnny. Glad to be back with you. Another year of doing this, and it wasn't the same without you, man, and glad we got the chance to have you back on for now the future.
Yes, absolutely, Ben. I got to tell you, and you guys have done a great job all season, and I got to be honest with you, when listening to it, I was like, man, I missed this, and it's just glad that everything's worked out. You guys know personally, it's been a great year, but it's at times been a very challenging one too. But look, it's November. I mean, it's the month of decision in the NFL already. We're about halfway through the season. There's a lot that we don't really know as November starts. Remember, we've got the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday, and we have some players that may be making some impact now. There's some that may be dealt between now and then. So it's a very interesting time of the year. And I don't know how you guys are doing record-wise. I know for me personally, if you follow me on Montalbano NY on Twitter, it's been a tough year to figure out. I mean, I'm entering at 60-63-1 with the win that I had on.
Hey, that's a lot better than other years.
Well, so 2 years ago, I was 500 throughout. Last year, I actually had a pretty good year. But when you look at how this year has been, Nick, it's just been a very difficult year to figure out.
You were the king of the tie, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, only one push this year, and and the big reason why is because there have been a lot of games that have had the hooks in it. So obviously you can't push in games that have hooks.
Right.
But you've had 67 games decided by 7 or fewer points, which is the most ever through 8 weeks. So that's the kind of year it's been.
Yeah, so we're going to go through the records briefly from week 8. Just looking through for people who hit locks. I see Tom hit a lock. I think Tom was the only one who hit a lock this week. Yeah, for the Bills. Because the Bills finally decided. Anthony, did you pick them this week or no?
Yeah, I think I did, but not as a lock.
No, but at least you got them to win while picking them.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to get to the games, but quickly, let me go through the points. So, leading this week, I had 23. Tom had 21. Zan had 20. Nick and Anthony had 18. Ben had 16. And Pat had 10. So, a little bit all across the board. And then the new totals. So, I'm leading the way with 161. Anthony with 155. Zan with 150. Nick with 140. Nick D with 147. Grant and Tom with 142. And Ben with 136. So those are the those are the scores, and then just for records, for win-loss draws, I was 10-3-3. Tom was 7-4-5. Zan was 8-4-4. Nick D was 7-5-4. Ben was 5-5-6. Anthony was 7-5-4, and Pat was 3-9-4. All right, are we ready to get into this week?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So before we get to the first game, because obviously my team is not in because they played Thursday Night Football and they surprisingly won a game.
Yeah.
Tom decided to make a funny video based off if everybody in this room will know what I'm talking about. If you remember a certain comment that Aaron Rodgers made in the press conference before this game, and it became very memeable for a certain darkness comment. So I'll let you watch the video, and you can have a little fun and laugh away. So here we go.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. As a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sounds of silence.
So there you go.
Pretty good.
All right, that was good. That's the perfect song choice.
So
I missed that stuff, man.
Oh
my
man.
God.
You missed the one from last week too that Tom did.
Listen, I watched and/or listened to every episode this season, and I got to tell you, it is. I mean, he is taking it to the next step.
When he shared that with me, and he's like, "You might want to look at this before you start the episode." And I started laughing hysterically. Like, Of course, it's memeing my own team, but
You have to have a good laugh every once in a while, right?
yeah, I mean, in my opinion, they probably still should not have won yesterday. But that's just my point. All right, let's get into the games. Johnny, take it away.
All right, let's do this, guys. It is week 9 in the NFL. We are in November. Let's see how I remember. Do I remember how to do this? Oh, yes, I do. Ben, it is, in fact, an Adam Amin, Greg Olson, Pam Oliver special on Fox as we go down to Atlanta. It's Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys against Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons a 3.5-point favorite.
Is it 3.5 or 3?
It is at 3.5.
3.5.
Okay, part of me thought it was a 3, but regardless of the fact, I'm going with Atlanta. The Cowboys, I just have not been a massive believer in a lot of this year. I know that they have obviously had a great defense over time, but they've been missing a lot of their key guys on defense. The Falcons, to me, I feel like have been playing really well at home. They've had a couple of clunkers in there against Seattle and Kansas City, but like outside of that, I think it's going to be a close one. But I really like that 3.5 for Atlanta. They're at home. If it was in Dallas, maybe I'd be leaning towards Dallas, but I've been picking Dallas a lot for a certain reason and certain reason only. Is because a lot of their defensive guys have been out, and I just really don't just trust that Dallas defense when guys like Parsons and Lawrence and guys like that are out. So I'm picking Atlanta to win, and I have them to cover.
Nick?
Yeah, I got burned last week trying to pick the Cowboys because I thought maybe with all the injuries with the Niners, maybe they would actually come out and play decent football. Well, that burned me big time. So no more Cowboys, at least for right now. Falcons to cover. No more explanation needed.
First time I get to do this, I get to toss to Grant. Grant, welcome back. What do you think here?
Thanks, Johnny. So here's my take on this. I will say I believe the Falcons will win because for some reason they've been like on and off. So they'll win one week, they'll lose the next week, and this is the week they'll win. I will say this though, the Cowboys need it more. So for me, this could go either way, but I'm going to choose the Falcons because they have been playing pretty good lately, and I think they're finding their groove. So I'm going to take the Falcons to cover.
What do you think here, Anthony?
Yeah, since Nick D's not here, I want to say it for him. It's 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. So you guys know what that means. Obviously, Dallas, they are going to start to get a little bit more healthier. I think Deron Bland, one of their star corners, is going to be coming back. I think he was just activated off the short-term IR. So hopefully they can get him back. Obviously, their pass rush has been absolutely devastated by injuries. I picked them to lose last week against the 49ers. I was correct on that. Kirk Cousins definitely responded. After them kind of getting shut out and beat up pretty badly by the Seahawks, he came back and had multiple touchdowns and looked really good against the Buccaneers. So I think the Falcons are starting to click really well. So I'm going to go with Atlanta to win and cover. So take the money.
Yeah. Oh, Ben,
you're muted.
Sorry, really quickly before we get to you, Johnny. Kyle Pitts turned it up, and we talked a lot last year. Remember, Johnny, Nick, and Tom about Kyle Pitts and not using him in this offense. Well, he got 2 touchdowns last week on National Tight Ends Day. So thank you, Kirk Cousins.
What a manufactured holiday by the NFL.
Yeah. Well, it helps.
Good point, Nick. Good point.
The ball. Yeah. So the Cowboys have been in this situation before, guys. They've been underdogs on the road, I think, 3 times before, winning outright twice. Losing last week to the 49ers. It's tricky because you always think the Cowboys are going to turn it around here, but the problem is they're going up against a deeper and more rounded team, in my opinion, here in the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons have multiple weapons on offense. While you look at the boys, and really the only guy right now health-wise is CeeDee Lamb. And I think that the Falcons secondary can at least slow him down a little bit. I actually do think there are going to be some points scored in this game, but I just think there's too much that the Falcons have going their way to go otherwise here. So, yeah, a little nerve-wracking that this game now is over the field goal, but I'm still going to take the Falcons minus the 3.5 down there in Atlanta to win on Sunday. So for the 5 of us, at least, it is a clean sweep in game 1. Nick, it's a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson special on CBS as Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos head to M&T Bank Stadium to take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. On the biggest line of the week, the Ravens a 9.5-point favorite.
Yeah, so I mean, Bo Nix, I have to give them credit somewhat. I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan. He's actually come out and played some decent football the last couple of weeks. The Ravens, I mean, obviously he seems healthy now, but Lamar's been fighting all week through some injuries. But I can't take the Broncos here. They're not even a chance. I just think the Ravens are a better offensive team. They just acquired Deontay Johnson, right, from the Panthers. So that just makes them even better offensively. They basically got him for a bucket of baseballs at this point. So what was it, like a 6th and 7th round pick swap, essentially, that they did? Yeah. So, yeah, take the Ravens. This one's not going to be close.
Grant?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm going to comment a little bit on what Nick said about the Deontay Johnson trade before I talk about the game, if you don't mind. You know, Deontay Johnson comes from the Panthers and had no production because he has no quarterback. So that's why they got him for pocket money. But I mean, yeah, it's a terrible situation coming from the Panthers. Hopefully he can turn his season around with Lamar Jackson. The question is, will he throw the ball to him instead of run? But I mean, this is one of the easiest games to pick in terms of the line, because I mean, I agree with Nick in terms of how the Ravens have the more star power, but the Broncos are well rounded. It's just they don't have enough. So this is the Ravens for me without a doubt. So
Anthony?
And just to clarify, that's not my lock.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say Bo Nix has been playing lights out, and I know a lot of people haven't been too confident on him. I've been, a fan of Bo Nix. I remember him as one of the top quarterbacks in high school. I remember him at Auburn, and I remember when he ultimately transferred to Oregon. So I just want to state that I'm a Bo Nix guy, 100%. But I'm still going to pick the Ravens to win this game and cover. The Ravens are just too good, to be honest. I mean, on paper, I know the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. But on paper, I feel like this Ravens team might just be, the most talented team. The combination of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, like I said, is almost undefendable. I really don't know how you defend that. And we've seen Lamar Jackson get so frustrated, slamming his helmet after that loss to the Browns. And we know division games could go either way. I think having Jameis Winston coming onto that team, I think that motivated and energized that locker room. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But now Lamar Jackson's pissed off, and when he gets pissed off, he comes in fire in that next game. And I think this game sets up perfectly. The Broncos have been winning a lot of games. They're due for a bad loss, and the Ravens are due for a big win. So I think this just has, Ravens blowout all over it. So I'm going to go with the Ravens to win and cover.
Yeah, Anthony, I actually pretty much echo everything you just said there, because this is the game to me that I would say is Denver for real, because, their defense is among the best in the league with Pat Surtain. Bo Nix, like you said, has been playing great. But this is a little bit of a different animal because they haven't played anybody in their recent stretch here like the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I have my concerns with the Ravens. I think their defense is a big problem. They've given up a lot of points in the last several weeks here. That game again, that's why I wasn't really confident with them playing the Browns last week, even though we saw with Jameis Winston and the new play caller there for the Browns. And there was a little bit of hesitancy in me making this pick, because we didn't know the status of Lamar Jackson until Friday. But given all that, the loss they had last week, like you said, I think they're going to be angry. I think they do win by double digits. I think this is a pretty convincing win for them. And I think the Ravens need that in the worst way here. So give me the Ravens laying the 9.5 at home. And Ben?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to go in the middle here. I think that the Ravens are the better team, but I think that this 9.5 is a little too much. And this is not a knock because I like Bo Nix. I actually agree with Nick. I'm not the biggest Bo Nix guy. I think he has ability, though. I think he's a serviceable type of rookie. The biggest thing is the defense that Denver has. They feel like they present decent challenges defensively. I know, of course, last couple of weeks they haven't gone against their quarterbacks, but I do think that they're going to have a close one in this one. The Ravens were close last week against Jameis Winston, that Cleveland team that's not very good. So maybe they're kind of even themselves out a little bit. I know they're obviously the better team. They're going to win this game, but I do think that the Broncos are going to keep it within 7 points. So I'm going to go with the Ravens here to win, but I have the Broncos to Ravens to win, but no cover.
There we go. All right, and I almost did the same thing, Ben, but I just feel like they're due. But if the Broncos do win this game, I will say this: it is time to sound the panic alarms there in Baltimore, because then they got to go out and get a defensive player. I actually didn't even understand the Deontay Johnson trade.
I didn't either.
Defense. I think they were trying to react to the Chiefs getting DeAndre Hopkins and their pass rusher.
I wouldn't be shocked. Sorry, John, I cut you off. I wouldn't be shocked that David Clowney has a reunion back with Baltimore, because he's in Carolina and he wouldn't cost a whole lot. I know he's probably not the same guy, but defensively he can maybe give him something.
I wouldn't, to comment a little bit on Ben there. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Carolina Panthers sell a little bit more before Tuesday, because I personally believe that Canales might be fired. I know that that's not on topic really, but it's something to mention. So,
all right, well, we'll find out what happens between now and Tuesday. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins special on CBS. Anthony, your Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are home to take on Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, and it's your Bills a 6-point favorite in Orchard Park.
Yeah, I definitely was wrong about the Dolphins last week. I thought the Dolphins were going to beat the Cardinals, and I was wrong on that. Surprisingly, they didn't lose for the reason why people thought they lose. Tua actually played pretty well. It was their defense that struggled in that one, and I know these division games can be really close, but the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen just seem to have the Dolphins number. And when they played the Dolphins at the beginning of the year, I was a fool, and I thought the Dolphins were going to get the win. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win and cover. I know the Dolphins really need this win. They're really trying to get back on the groove, and not this to be a second week with Tua Tagovailoa. But like I said, Josh Allen has just been the Dolphins' kryptonite. I think, Amari Cooper will play a little bit better. You see how now that Amari Cooper's established himself in the offense, you see guys like Keon Coleman breaking out. Khalil Shakir's playing better. Having Cooper really opens it up for a lot of these other receivers, and it's really hard just to key on one player now on this Buffalo Bills team. So I'm going to go with the Bills to win and cover.
All right, let's get this out of the way. First time I get to say this in 10 months. This is my lock of the week, boys. I'm taking the Bills minus the 6 here. Anthony, you said it. The Bills just own the Dolphins. And then you add to that they're playing upstate in New York, where it's not going to be freezing, but it's going to be cooler now. I mean, it's been warm for a while across the whole country, but it is supposed to be a little bit cooler there in Buffalo. And, of course, when you take the Dolphins out of Miami, 50 to 60 degrees could feel like 30 to 40. And like you said, Keon Coleman's been playing well. Amari Cooper addition's been nice. And also, let's remember one other thing, too. Von Miller is returning from a suspension on Sunday, so that's going to help with the defense. The Dolphins' offensive line is not great. They weren't even playing that well when Tua was in there before. So it was nice to see the offense get rolling, but their defense is still a mess. I think it's going to be a very, very long afternoon for the Bills there. For the Dolphins up in Buffalo. And, we might have to get Tom Albano to work early this year, because the way things are going, we might be having a playoff scenario involving the Bills really early this year. I mean, they already have a 3 to 4 game lead in the AFC East, and this is going to help that as well. I will take the Bills, make it my lock of the week. What say you, Ben?
Yeah, this is obviously a really good matchup. Of course, Tua came back last week, but the biggest thing about the Dolphins is, regardless if Tua is in or not, they seem to just be very dysfunctional. The way that they lost last week, Tua had a safety. I don't know. I think it must have been from the center that had a bad snap or something. But they had control of a lot of this game in the second half. It was just completely a mess. So, I don't know in terms of what's going on with Miami right now. They're really having a hard time finding to win games, and I don't think it's going to get any easier against a team in Buffalo that's playing really, really good football as of late, and a team that's had really good success, especially with Josh Allen at the helm, against Miami. So, they're back at home. Josh Allen owns Miami. Bills always do well at home. It just feels like I can't really pick anything against Miami right now. So I'm going with Buffalo here to win. I think it's going to be my lock of the week. I was considering it, but I have them to win and cover.
Nick?
Yeah, so I thought about this game as a lock of the week, but there's another game I like a little bit better. I was on the record last week, and we all had a lot of us had a long discussion about whether Tua should be back on the field. I was very animated at the fact that this was a huge mistake, that he was back on the field and actually that he should have retired and should be nowhere near touching a football anymore. I have to admit, he played good football this past week, but I think the Bills are a much better team in this scenario. I know they've had their injuries. I know they've had their issues, but the Dolphins' offensive line is a struggle, even with him in. And I know the stats all say when he's in, the offense plays better. You saw a huge difference when Tua is out there. The team just plays differently. Did you really think Tyler Huntley was going to last forever being the starting quarterback of this team? Absolutely not.
No one thought that.
So, but I like the Bills more in this scenario, so I'm going to take them to win and cover.
Grant?
Yeah, I mean, literally everything that everyone else has said are great points. I mean, you know, when it came out that Tua Tagovailoa was coming back, you know, me and my dad were like, why not retire? Because he's already signed his huge contract. He's covered for life. And you know, then the situation with the Guardian cap came out and he, you know, told reporters he's not using it. And I know the Guardian caps don't do much, but when you've had concussions that literally mess with your motor skills and any cushion of protection could help, whether that be only 20 or 30%. But yeah, I mean, it's not my lock of the week, but the Bills are going to win this game easy.
I mean, one point I just want to make is the Guardian cap actually wouldn't have protected against the way he got hurt because his head bounced off the ground multiple times.
Oh.
So the Guardian cap wouldn't have done anything. But it's more the protection, the precautionary, than not doing anything. So that's really more the point.
And the scary thing is that happened. When did this concussion happen? It happened against the Bills, and now he goes up to Buffalo.
Oh wow!
I totally didn't realize that. You're right.
I forgot about that. You're right.
Right, and it only looks like the Bills have gotten better since that game, and the Dolphins have gone in the wrong direction. I mean, there might be some points scored in this game, but I still think this is the Bills up there in Buffalo. All right, we're going to go aboard the Fast Track Express here. We got we've got 5 straight games involved in the Fast Track, and starting with this one, Grant, a Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, Amanda Balionis special on CBS as the return of Derek Carr for the New Orleans Saints. They go to Carolina to take on Bryce Young and the Panthers, and it's the Saints, a touchdown road favorite.
So, I mean, the Panthers have no offense and no defense. So this, you know, I have a better game for my lock of the week, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if if one or two people take lock of the week here, because the Saints will cream the Panthers because Bryce Young is starting and he hasn't done crap in the year and a half that he's been the starter. But I mean, you got to get that dude some help. I mean, you traded away each weapon that he's tried to either to get him or to show that you don't believe in him anymore. So what are you doing? So the Saints will win outright easy.
Anthony?
Yeah, I hate doing this. I mean, being a road team in a division matchup, I mean, it's hard to pick that. That's a lot of points in a road division matchup, but the Carolina Panthers are the one exception. I mean, I feel like it doesn't matter who they play. I mean, I feel like at this point they could play a team in the Canadian Football League and they lose by double digits. So
I think it's possible.
I'm going to go with the Saints to win and cover this one.
By the way, just for points' sake, since we're talking about this being a struggle, DraftKings has this over-under at 43.5 combined, which sounds kind of high.
Yeah, that is a little bit high.
It's a little high. I would say 30 something, but not
Yeah.
that high.
I was thinking more in the 30s, yeah, because I mean Derek Carr returning there for the Saints. I mean, by the way, softest landing spot possible for Derek Carr to return.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a Panthers team that is almost historically bad defensively. I mean, their point differentials are minus 147 through 8 weeks. But actually, I got to tell you, I actually was struggling with this game until the news of Derek Carr came out on Friday. Because if you're telling me it was Spencer Rattler starting, we've seen how bad the Saints have been with him under center. But Derek Carr being back there against a terrible defensive team in the Panthers, I will take the Saints minus the 7 here at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, this is my lock of the week.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Didn't see that.
I have not picked against the Panthers at all this year. I just think that they're a mess. And I just looked at the Panthers. Their last, 4 games, they've lost by multiple of double digits. The Saints, they're getting Derek Carr back, and I haven't been a big fan of the Saints as of late, but when you go from Spencer Rattler to Derek Carr, and I'm obviously not saying that Derek Carr is a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. But you see specifically that they're able to move the football more at will offensively with him over a backup or somebody like him. So regardless of who, though, is out there, even if Spencer Rattler, Spencer Rattler even was playing, I might even consider it. That's crazy to think because the Panthers are that bad. But I think the Saints are going to win. They need to win too. So, I think this is a get-right game, and that's my lock of the week.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, this game is trash, and the best way I can describe it, yeah, it's that bad. Let's put it this way. Even if Derek Carr wasn't starting, I would have taken an AI version of Derek Carr over anything the Panthers are putting out there. That's how bad the Panthers are playing the game of football. Like, they folded like 2 or 3 games into the year. That's even though they got a surprising win early in the year, but there's no way. And I understand, and we almost ended up with Derek Carr because we were so desperate for a quarterback with the Jets. People forget that the Jets were in the sweepstakes for him. And wasn't Olave injured at one point also, or is he still injured or on and off?
No, it's the other guy.
Shaheed.
Right?
Oh, well, they've both been on and off injured. So, that worries me a little bit. But the Panthers are so bad that, it's going to be a laughable game, in my opinion. Take the Saints.
Yeah, we'll see there at Charlotte. All right, another fast-track game, Nick. A Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston, Laura Oakman special on Fox as your Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow are a touchdown favorite at home against Gardner Minshew and the Las Vegas Raiders.
By the way, the very high-traveling Kevin Kugler with all his mileage to these international games. You will be – I'm sure you saw it last week. I actually did pick the Bengals to win last week.
And miracle here.
And believe it or not, I'm still taking the Bengals to win again this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not changing. I'm not that crazy, even though I don't like the way the Bengals 100% still played. But the Raiders are such a dumpster fire in every way, shape, or form. Their quarterback situation's a mess. Is it Aiden O'Connell? Is it Gardner Minshew? Now, I think Aiden O'Connell got injured last week. So it looks like it's going to be Gardner Minshew. But this team is so bad. And I'm going to feel bad for Antonio Pierce when he gets fired, because that's where I think we're heading towards. So, Bengals to cover.
Grant?
It's funny. I'm not sure if I would go as far as fired for Antonio Pierce, but last year when he took over for
the guy from
McDaniels, Josh McDaniels. I wanted to say John Gruden because he was the guy before that, but he looked very promising. But the problem is you get rid of your quarterback, and then you sign someone that's mediocre compared to Derek Carr's production or something, and then you decide to hire. You have to settle for Luke Getsy because Cliff Kingsbury made the smart decision to
not take the job,
not take the Raiders job. maybe because he knew it was going to be that bad. But I don't like where it's going for the Raiders, and I'm going to take the Bengals to win.
Anthony?
Yeah, take the money on the Bengals. I know the Bengals don't have a good record. I still think they're a good team. I know Joe Burrow and the offense hasn't really been the problem. They did have issues against the Eagles. But I think the Eagles, everything just seeming to start to come together for the Eagles. I think they're starting to become a really good team again. They're starting to look like how they did a few years ago. Their young corners, Cooper DeJean, Quayon Mitchell, they're playing really well, and I think that's why Joe Burrow had his struggles in the second half. But I think the Bengals are starting, besides that Philly game, are starting to get some things together. They got some of their defensive players stepping up. You got Trey Hendrickson, Logan Wilson, B.J. Hill. They've been contributing as well to what's been probably a really poor defense that's been holding them back. But I think this is a perfect game for Joe Burrow to get back on track. I can see Joe Burrow having 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards in this game. So I think the Bengals win and cover.
Ben, just so you know, Jim, T. Higgins is out. T. Higgins is doubtful, not out yet, but most likely will be out.
Oh, I heard he's most likely out.
Yeah, I think he's listed as doubtful, but it sounds from some of the reports that he is not going to play on Sunday, and I'm going to factor that in. I'm going to factor in the fact that as much as talented as the Bengals are, and they're the more talented team, it hasn't always worked out that way. And just from an ATS perspective, the Raiders have been a very sneaky team against the spread this year. So that is why I am taking the Raiders plus the 7 points in this game, because if you look at them as well, they've already won a game outright as a big-time underdog against an AFC North team on the road. And their last 2 games against the Rams and the Chiefs, they covered. So I absolutely could see them doing this. I could even see them backdoor covering in the spot. The Bengals, it's so strange because they're always the more talented team, but it just, for some weird reason, whether it's been their defense or their offensive line, just can't seem to put it all together. So I do see the Bengals winning this, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than it should be. So I am going to take the Raiders plus the touchdown there at Paycor Stadium.
Johnny, do you have the Raiders winning outright or just taking the points?
I can't. That would be a reach. I mean, especially with Gardner Minshew starting, I do think the Bengals will win. I think it's going to be like 23-20.
Okay.
Bengals. That's where I'm going to go at.
Okay.
There's just something to them here. I think Nick's called it for the most part. Nick's been spot on the last 2 years about the Bengals here. I think they do win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. And I think if the Raiders actually had a more competent quarterback, I wouldn't even be surprised they go out there and win this game outright.
It'll be helpful for sure.
I couldn't do that. Yeah, Grant, I don't know who in the Raiders organization thought that Gardner Minshew was a starting quarterback and they gave him all that money. He's a good backup. He's not a starter. I said that in real time. When they gave him, what was it, like 4 years and $44 million?
It was some obscene amount of money, close to $50 million.
I don't even remember. It's so ridiculous. I don't even remember what the contract was.
He played well for the Colts, but he also had stretches where he was awful. So it proves to me that he's a very valuable backup, and you need a backup as much as you need a starter in the NFL, but he's not starting quarterback caliber. I don't think so, but I think they'll keep it close. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I was actually considering to go with you too, Johnny. The Bengals are going to go without T. Higgins, Orlando Brown Jr., and Zach Moss. So, of course, Brown Jr. is a massive part of the offensive line. Chase Brown, I do think, though, will be fine. He's had a phenomenal year for them at the running back spot. And, if the Raiders had a better competent quarterback play, I would consider them maybe winning this possibly outright because the Bengals just haven't been a good home team. But one thing about the Bengals, though, is they've done a pretty good job defensively against quarterbacks that have been very to average. The Bengals have not been good against fairly good quarterbacks this year at home. I mean, Jalen Hurts obviously has a ton of weapons around him, so I'm not saying that he's great, but of course, a lot of that offense relies on the start of that and that running game, and that's why they scored a ton, and they're playing with high confidence right now. Jaden Daniels early on the season, obviously they've had a fun story. They're 6-2. I'm trying to think who else won in Cincy as well. Somebody else that was really good offensively. So the Bengals, I think, really need this win. I do think that Jamar Chase is going to have a couple touchdowns. Joe Burrow's going to do his thing. So I have the Bengals here to win. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think they're going to get the job done at the end of the day here. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here to cover.
Are you talking about the Ravens?
Yes.
Talking about the Ravens? Yeah,
The Ravens.
That was the offensive outburst, 41-38.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you look at it, most of the games in Cincinnati, it's been the losses that they've had. The defense has been bad, but it's been against a lot of really good offenses.
Well, and then they lost the tough game against the Chiefs on the penalty, which was correct, by the way.
Yep.
So, tough games.
Yeah, and that's why it could be close, too, at the end as well. All right, Anthony, we got Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkabella on CBS as Justin Herbert and the Chargers head to Cleveland to face Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns, with the Chargers a point favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I've been a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh, and I think the Chargers defense has been really good this year. I know the Browns got a spark going with Jameis Winston. We've seen guys like Cedric Tillman break out. Maybe he's going to be a star for this team. Nick Chubb's back now. But still, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think they could win this game based on their defense alone. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
So I'm not optimistic that Jameis is going to be able to duplicate the magic he provided last week, because the big difference he's got here is he's got a great defense that can stop the pass, unlike the Ravens. But I'm going to give him a chance for one reason in this game. The West Coast to East Coast early window trip for the LA Chargers. And I'm going to couple that with Winston having nothing to lose for a 2-6 football team. I'm going with the Browns. Let's see if they can do it again here against the Chargers. Because there's no pressure on Jameis Winston right now. He's in a win-win spot regardless there, and I think the magic continues. I'm not really – I love the Charger defense. Their offense to me is still a big question mark. So I'm going to go with the magic, and I think maybe there's a little bit of a lull with the cross-country trip there for the Chargers. So give me the Browns there on Sunday.
Which means you're taking them outright because it's 1 point.
Yeah. No, I think the Browns are winning this game, and it's funny because they're a 2-6 team, and it's like, oh wow, they have a tall hill to climb. But the last 2 years, guys, there have been teams that were 2-6, and they ended up making the playoffs.
I don't know if this makes your pick any more confident, Johnny, but Joey Bosa is still questionable for this game. Also,
yeah, that's the thing. The Chargers for the last couple of years have had so many injuries that they just can't get their full teams together. They finally have a competent coach, but it's still like they don't really have much on offense. Their defense, though, is still very, very dangerous and legit. So that could be what it is. This is probably going to be a very low-scoring game, though. I didn't check to see I forget what the total is real quick, but I would probably trend more towards the under.
42.5.
Oh yeah, I would take the under for sure.
Why is that so high?
It is high.
Yeah, unless they think Winston magic, that could be the only reason why. I know they scored 29 last week, but that was also against a Ravens defense that's not good right now.
True.
Ben?
I'm right with you, Johnny. I love the Browns here. And I think that just the Browns offense looked 100% better than Deshaun Watson's offense with them. I think just new blood that's coming in. You obviously just kind of have the pieces around. And it's not like, the Chargers obviously have been a fine team, but they haven't been a great team. They're very up and down. They're inconsistent. And the Browns just beat one of the best teams in football last week in the Ravens. So I think that they're still at home. They beat the Ravens at home. I don't see a reason why they can't do it again against a team that isn't as good offensively. So I think the Browns also, their defense, I still have a decent belief in their running game. So I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to take the Browns here to win and win outright.
Nick?
This is a tough one just because and everyone knows this, I don't like Justin Herbert. I've never been a fan of the Justin Herbert game on the field. He gets hurt a lot. I think he actually almost got knocked out of last week's game for an injury again. So he worries me from an injury perspective. But the Browns with Jameis Winston are like a team we'll talk about in a few games, the Colts with Joe Flacco, where basically you're putting a guy in, he gives you a little magic, but there's an expiration date on that magic when it runs out, and you don't know when that's going to be. So, like you said earlier, Johnny, he had a great game. He threw for 300 yards. It looked all well and good, orchestrating that big drive at the end of the game to get them in the end zone. But I don't know. I can't expect consistency out of him every week. If anything, it's going to be it's like a mountain and a hill. It's going to be up and down like the rest of the year. I think the Chargers have a little bit more offensively than the Browns do. So I'm not confident about it, but I'm going to take the Chargers to cover.
And Grant, what do you have here?
Yeah, I mean, this, Jameis Winston played a great game last week, but he's always, in my mind, he's always going to be the 30 for 30 quarterback, the 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So, and I mean, you could go into this game without Nick Bosa, hypothetically, with him being questionable, but you still have a great option with Khalil Mack and oh god, I don't know who would go opposite him, but I know he was a rookie last year. I can't think of his name. They drafted him in the first round, I think, but the Chargers will win. Jim Harbaugh has been a great. Everyone knew he was the hottest head coaching candidate in last year's cycle. He actually chose a place that he played and not many people thought he'd go to, but it was the right decision.
So you're taking them to cover.
Oh, and win. Yeah.
All right, so Grant will take the money in Cleveland. All right, this next game is my team, but I have to go to Nick first because he's been spot on about the road team in this spot. Nick, we've got Chris Myers, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink on Fox as your Washington Commanders. I'm going to say your Commanders because you've been right on about them. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders against my New York Football Giants, and the Commanders a 4-point favorite at MetLife Stadium.
I mean, let's just say number one, that was an incredible game last week between the Commanders and the Bears, and that finish. And I know I saw Grant making the face for the end of that game.
You had to use the word incredible.
I thought the finish was incredible. How often do you see a Hail Mary hit at the end of a game?
I'll get 5%.
Exactly. So, and by the way, Tyreek Stevenson, number 29, the guy who was showboating on the other side of the field. This was one of my hot takes. What are you doing on the final possession of a game? A game is not over till what happens. The game is not over till when?
I'm sorry, but I as a Bears fan, I'm sorry for interrupting. But I'm thinking about the drive before, or if you don't run the stupid 85 Bears fullback dive, you don't get a chance to run that play, is what I'm saying.
I agree.
If that was if you handed that off to either of your actual running backs, you win the game, is what I'm saying.
No, I get it, but Tyreek, you got to stay home on that play. And also, Johnny and Nick D hit it right on MTGP. Why are you batting the football like a volleyball? That's when it's going to get caught, I should say. So, I don't know. The Commanders have just been playing good football. They're 6-2. Jane Daniels has been a huge surprise, which is really not because of where his draft position being second overall. They should have expected more out of him, which they're getting. And I don't think it's any different. And I think the Commanders are going to go into New York, and I think they're going to have a great game. And on top of it, that's my lock, because I just think the Commanders are going to go in and obliterate the Giants. The Giants situation, I heard Johnny, you talking about it, the quarterback situation is a mess. And I agree that the quarterback situation is a mess. And I agree with you also that I think the quarterback is not on this roster for next year.
Yeah, Nick, that's my hot take, by the way. The Giant quarterback going into next year is not on this roster, and he's not in the draft next year. That's the problem. There's no quarterback in the NFL draft. And the other thing, too, is the Giants are going to win more games because they still have enough talent between, their defensive line. They still lead the league in sacks. They still got playmakers on offense. But one of the biggest problems is the quarterback. So, I tried to defend Daniel Jones. I tried giving him a chance. But, that throw that he made on that 2-point conversion or something was this is not a reach to say this. That's the worst play I've seen since what McAfee tried to do against the Patriots. Ben, that I don't know what that was. I don't know how to call it. But, yeah. And the other thing I'll say, too, is you guys brought this up last week, too, regarding the whole John Mara situation. I think John Marido is 100% right. You need some stability with this organization. I think Brian Dable and Joe Shane, considering what's been going on with this team, have actually, for the most part, done a pretty good job. And Dable's done more with less. I'll compare this to the Eagles with Sirianni and the Cowboys with McCarthy, because I'm going to leave Dan Quinn out for a second because he's still a wild card in all this. But when you look at what the Giants have had with what they have to deal with, I think that Dable's doing better than those two guys because he's doing more with less, while Sirianni and McCarthy are doing less with more. Now, that hasn't translated into wins, and you're probably not going to get a lot of wins this year. But I think you do need some stability. You see the players love playing for him. So I think if there are people that are talking about firing Brian Dable, I think that is a major mistake. So we'll see how that rides out the string. I wouldn't be surprised later in the year if Tommy DeVito does get some starts, because honestly, he's going to be in competition for this quarterback job in 2025. Now, as far as this game goes, look, the Giants do play the Commanders tough, but not at MetLife Stadium. And by the way, the Giants, and they're my team, I mean, my God, they are the worst team at home that I've ever seen. They're 0-4. They have one offensive touchdown in 4 games at home. I mean, that is
that incredible streak.
It is. Oh yeah, the streak of like the last time that
690 days since he's got a touchdown at MetLife Stadium.
It's disgusting, Nick. I mean, first of all, here's another thing. Here's an idea. 2 things about this game. The Giants should wear their road whites here, or let's move this game to like the middle of a cornfield in Nebraska, or maybe let's move it down to Antarctica. That'll be better. But yeah,
let's go to Germany early.
This actually would be a better game to watch in Germany than the game against the Panthers next week. Oh man, those guys are going to be drinking their beer like crazy over there. Yeah. Bottom line of this game, the bottom line about this game, I'm taking the Commanders to win and cover this game. The only reason why I didn't make it my lock is because I feel like it could be a field goal game. But I mean, how can you do that when you look at one team that's got the rookie of the year and they've taken steps forward since their first meeting? And then the Giants are taking steps back. And also, here's another thing, too. The Giants' backup kicker is out on Sunday, so they have to go bring in somebody from the practice squad.
Oh, my God. Again?
So but at least it's happening. It was announced on Friday, and it didn't happen during the game when they didn't have a backup. That is something you can get on Brian Dable about. But otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be pretty there. I mean, I will still watch on Sunday and support them, but it's very hard to see how I can take the Giants even plus the 4. So I am going to take Washington for Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels to get the 7-2 here on Sunday. Grant, what do you have?
So a lot of it, I will admit I am one of those people that, have been concerned about the Giants with Brian Dable and their organization stability, but literally in this last 5 minutes, you guys have been bringing up a lot of great points. So I'm going to take the Commanders to win, and I completely agree with you. If you compare this year's draft quarterback draft class to last year's quarterback draft class, oh my God, it's 10 years. I mean, it's light years away from how good it was last year. But the thing is, whoever the mediocre quarterback for the Giants is going to be next year, because they're most likely going to be mediocre unless you outright pay whoever the best quarterback is way too much money to come to your team. You need to get more weapons for whoever that quarterback is, because you cannot succeed with only one weapon, and that one weapon only being Malik Neighbors. And Malik Neighbors is great, but if you could get him, I don't watch college football, but there's
Travis
like this.
Hunter? You want the guy from Colorado?
No, not the guy from Colorado.
Wait.
There's a wide receiver from Mizzou that's like a stud, or at least advertised as one. But
what was it, Anthony?
Anthony?
Luther Burden?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it'll be interesting to see with your points about where they will be in the draft order with with you thinking that they'll squeak out a couple games later on in the season. But I'm gonna just throw it out there. I think I have a little bit of a hot take. I think the beginning of the draft order could literally be the Panthers, either the Giants, and then the Patriots. The Patriots and Giants could flip for 2 or 3. Wow. But I think that's that's my hot take of the show.
All right. Well, we'll find out. I don't know, and I don't know where we're gonna go from here. There's gonna be a lot of time to spend on the Giants stuff because there'll be more stuff that develops. Anthony, real quick, what do you have here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Commanders as my lock of the week as well. This was an easy one. Jaden Daniels, one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. I know he's still trying to come back from injury. I said it before. I don't know if necessarily if Daniel Jones is all the problems, but he's definitely not the solution. So they definitely got to get a difference maker at quarterback. And you were saying, Johnny, about how, Brian Daboll is doing more with less. Well, he's doing more with less because the GM can't get any players for him. So I feel like the GM needs to go. I mean, they've been bringing in all these offensive linemen. They still got one of the worst offensive lines in football. So I don't mind Brian Daboll if you want to have stability there. But I think they got to get rid of Daniel Jones. I think they got to get a new GM. And maybe they could get Shedeur Sanders in the draft, and maybe he could change things around.
No. I don't want Shedeur Sanders, Anthony. That'd be taking 20 steps back. We're already taking 10 steps back.
That's like if you had to deal with LeVar Ball and his sons in the NBA. You don't want to deal with Shedeur and Deion Sanders.
That's why he's going to go to Dallas, and then Jerry Jones is going to get Deion to be the head coach. It'd be
maybe
God.
I
mean, come on, you could see it. You could see it there. The problem I think with Shane though is I think they're kind of tied together. So if Shane goes, then I think
because
that's the thing.
You're right, Johnny. Because when Daboll was with the Bills in that hiring cycle, he said in any interview, whoever hires me has to hire this guy as
I hate that
my GM because I want him with me. And when that cycle opened, the Bears were hiring Matt Eberflus, and being the guy that was like, oh, we have Justin, we need an offensive minded head coach. I was like, oh well, get Daboll, because he could possibly make him look good. But then once it came out that they were a package deal, I'm like, yeah, that's not happening.
We'll find out. I mean, it's still a lot of the season to go, even though it is a long short.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. Ben, it's a Jason Benetti, Mark Schlereth, Jen Hale.
What happened?
I'm gonna say I haven't done my pick yet.
Oh. Okay.
That's right. I went to you, and I went to you. I was going to go to you last, so then you can start first next game.
I could maybe double it, Johnny. It's okay. No worries.
2 for 1 special, Ben. Go for it.
I'm going with Commanders here too. I really love the way that Jaden Daniels has been playing all year, and the Giants are just not a good team at home. So I think this is kind of an easy one for me. So I'm taking the Commanders to cover.
My mistake there, Ben. You can see I'm a little rusty. It's been 10 months. Yeah, no real road field advantage this week for the Giants. All right, now we go to this one, Ben. A Jason Benetti, Mark Schlereth, Jen Hale special on Fox. It is your New England Patriots against the Tennessee Titans at Nashville. And at Nissan Stadium, it's the Titans a 3.5-point favorite.
So this is tough. And I know this is obviously – why do you ask me? Because it's tough because it's two teams that aren't great. It's because of Drake May's status. Drake May right now is questionable. If Drake May plays, I think the Patriots win this outright. If Jacoby Brissett plays, he's very inconsistent. Although I will say Jacoby did play well for the first time, it felt like forever, in Drake May's absence when he went down last week against the Jets. I thought that was the best that Jacoby has looked so far with the team this year. The Titans aren't a good team, but they have a pretty good front, and the Patriots' offensive line is very up and down. So I'm going to take the Pats to win outright because I do think that Drake May will play.
Well, as of a couple hours ago, it still says questionable to concussion. If you have a concussion, you're not determined by Friday. with concussion. I just don't see him playing.
Well, the thing though is that he has practiced 3 days in a row, and he's actually practiced a lot. So
Yeah,
that's
but he's still
one
got to
thing.
pass the concussion protocol too.
Right. And then obviously, no, concussions aren't no joke. I just think that the Titans are very winnable type of game for us. And yeah, I mean, they have some guys around. Their quarterback situations as well as a mess. So I'm going to go with the Pats here. Upset special.
By the way, just to put that in perspective, also, my guy Tyrone Tracy, the running back, did clear concussion protocol already on Friday, so he will be playing on Sunday. So that's just a thing to look at as far as your guy Drake May there in New England. Nick?
Yeah, this is not a good game at all whatsoever. I don't think he's going to play. Concussions are no joke. I know he's practiced 3 days in a row, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to play. And we all know how tough concussion protocol can be at the same time. So if I'm going off that notion, I'm going to take the Titans to cover because then the Patriots really have nothing else behind offensively. So I'm taking the Titans to cover.
Grant?
This is the toilet bowl game of the week. I mean, I mean, you could say it's the Panthers game because they're they're just as terrible, but this is two teams that are absolutely terrible. So the Saints will at least score points. The question is, how many points will be scored in this game? With that being said, I'm going to take the Titans to win outright and cover. So.
Anthony?
Yeah, I gotta go with the Patriots in the upset just simply out of spite because the Titans have burned me the last 2 weeks. I didn't pick them to win, but I didn't think necessarily that the teams that they were playing would cover the point spread. I thought that they had a decent enough pass defense to where maybe the Bills and the Detroit Lions wouldn't cover the point spread. So just because of that, I'm gonna go with the Patriots. Also because too, Christian Gonzalez is a great corner. I know this Titans team doesn't have a lot of weapons, and they do got struggles at quarterback. And I just think that's a bad combination going up against this Patriots defense. Jacoby Brissett, obviously has his ups and downs, but I think at times he can manage the game. And I think this is the perfect game that he can kind of manage. So I'm going to go with the Patriots to win in an upset.
This is the ultimate degenerate gambler's game.
Yes!
Yeah, you're welcome, Nick. No, Nick, I cannot find – I mean, even if you gave me $10, I cannot find a bet
I don't blame
put
you.
on this game. Oh, gosh.
This is like one of those games where you're drunk in the bar,
Well,
like before 1 o'clock, and
so-
you're like, okay, I have $10. Let me just put it down.
So who's starting for the Titans on Sunday? Do we know if Levis
It's what's
is
his
back?
name? He used to be on Pittsburgh.
It's Mason Rudolph.
I think
right?
it's
He's still
Mason
there?
Rudolph.
Because
Yeah.
it's funny. So Mason Rudolph, they move the ball more with Mason Rudolph, but they actually score less with Mason Rudolph. But man,
He also gets hit way more, too.
yeah, I cannot take the Titans. I cannot take in this kind of matchup. I cannot take a favorite laying more than 3.5, maybe more than a field goal. But yeah, just as an outright, I'm taking the Patriots to win this game because the Patriots have at least shown me. There have been times this year that the Patriots have actually showed me something. The Titans have not shown me anything so far this season. So, and I actually listened to. I know you're going to think I'm crazy. I actually listened to a sports show out of Nashville that talks a lot about the Titans, and they because it came up on my YouTube feed as a recommended thing, so I listened to it. Also because one of the people that co-hosts the show is actually does sideline work for college football on ESPN, Dawn Davenport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's I was listening to them, and when you listen to them, there's nothing on the Titans side. Their defense is good, and that's the crazy thing. Actually, that is their one positive is the defense, and that's what's crazy. Despite the fact that they have one of the best defenses in the league, they're 1-6. So the Patriots have at least had moments this year. So that's why I'm going to take them at least getting the 3.5, and I would go outright with New England. I would. But at the bare minimum, I wouldn't put them on the money line, but I would absolutely grab them plus 3.5 because I can't take the Titans laying at least a field goal in this kind of matchup at all.
I wish I looked at the injury report
So-
because Boyd and Pollard are both questionable going into the game.
Ben, if you're looking for my official prediction to put in the notes, I'm taking the Patriots to win outright. I will do it. Yeah, because I mean, they've shown me some. The Titans have shown me absolutely nothing. They will be one of the teams, by the way, that will be drafting a quarterback next year. They will probably be right up. Because I think they're worse. I think they're worse than the Patriots. I think they're worse than the Giants. So they will be above us. I think them and Carolina will probably be right up there competing for the number one spot in the 2025 draft. All right.
I would also say Will Levis is a failed experiment so far.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he had a good beginning, but it's gone way south. He hasn't been healthy. The team's not good. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, it's a mess there in Tennessee. Yeah.
Wasn't it crazy that year that he was Will Levis came in the draft for like a couple days? People were saying he could be the number one draft pick.
There was report. I remember when we were on that night that there was actually a report that he was in the running for it. But the thing that ultimately turned that around was when the Texans traded up to the third pick.
Oh, to have both picks.
Both picks, because that was totally the shocker, and that's what ultimately led his stock down. But, yeah, so that was crazy too. All right, let's get to the late window. Grant, let's go to you here. An Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn special on CBS as Caleb Williams and your Bears head to Arizona to face Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, and it's the Cardinals a 1.5 favorite.
Okay, so every Bears fan, was heartbroken from last week. I mean, now I will admit, in this section of their games, I had them winning 3 out of 4. I had the one loss being last week because of how good Jane Daniels has been, and surprisingly, actually, the coaching staff of Dan Quinn. But I did not have them winning last second. I think the Bears have to have a bounce back game this week. And I'm not that worried about the Cardinals. You have Kyler Murray, who still seems to be a running around quarterback, and he only has one weapon. Granted, Marvin Harrison is great, but Jalen Johnson should shadow him most of the game, and when he doesn't, whoever covers him, you better cover his ass because he is great. With that being said, based on their remaining schedule, I don't see the Bears making the playoffs, and I do see them most likely making a head coaching change. I want it to be Ben Johnson, but we'll see. But I'm going to take the Bears to win and cover.
So he's going upset. Anthony?
Anthony, you're muted.
Oh, Anthony's muted.
Sorry. After losing that emotional Hail Mary loss, I think the Bears are going to come out and win this game. Their defense is still really, really good. We've seen that even though Jaden Daniels was limited, they did pretty well. If you take out that Hail Mary pass, their defense played well. Obviously, Caleb Williams had his struggles. I think this will be a bounce-back game for Caleb Williams and the offense. And the Cardinals, obviously, they've been playing really good football. They've been a sneaky team, been pretty competitive. I think right now they may be first place in the NFC West. So surprisingly, who would have seen that coming? But I think the Bears are due for a win after having that emotional loss. I think the Cardinals on the opposite are due for a loss. So I know it's on the road, but I'm going to go with the Bears to win in the upset.
Yeah, this would have been a tough matchup for the Bears off a regular finish, going second straight road game out west of the Cardinals. I love the Cardinals offense though, and I have been high on them all season. And yeah, listen, the Bears defense, it is the real deal. But I'm wondering how they're going to handle Kyler Murray's mobility, or the connection to Marvin Harrison. And everybody wants to talk about that. There's other pieces to this offense though. James Conner, Trey McBride, Mike Wilson. I have been high on this Cardinals team for most of the season, and I think the emotions of last week are gonna pour over into this one. I am taking the Cardinals laying the 1.5 here to win and cover, because I think they're going to outscore the Bears. I mean, the Bears are great defensively, but I mean, I still think the Cardinals can put up some points, and I think that's going to be more than enough. So give me the Cardinals at State Farm Stadium minus the 1.5. Ben?
Yeah, I like the Cardinals too. The Cardinals, to me, they've been a really fun team all year. Defensively, they have a lot of great pieces over there, but it's really their offense that I think is very interesting. They're very dynamic. They use a lot of their guys. Of course, Kyler is, of course, a threat by himself. James Conner has obviously been one of the best backs in the league for a long time. And then, you, of course, now Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside with McBride on the inside. So they use their offense in different ways. And I think the Bears, of course, have a great defense. But I think this is going to be a game where the Cardinals defense comes up big against the Bears offense, as well as the Cardinals offense be able to take advantage of some of the Bears defense. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals here to lay the 1.5.
Nick?
So actually, I was the only one last week who picked the Cardinals to beat the Dolphins last week. And mostly that was because I thought Tua was going to be a disaster. But as Anthony said, that was a defensive disaster and a breakdown. I'm not a big fan of the Cardinals. I've been on the record of that since we did our preview show. But in this scenario, I actually do like the Cardinals to cover because I look at the injury report. They have a lot of guys who are either questionable or out. A lot of injuries. On their defensive side, Brisker and Sweat, both are either questionable or out. So I think their defensive line is going to be hampered up a little bit, and that's going to be a problem. And I just think the Cardinals have been a little bit better offensively. So I am going to take the Cardinals to cover.
I still see Sweat playing though. Just gonna put that out there.
Okay.
I'm going to be very curious to see the start of this too. Let's see if the Bears get off to a fast start, because that's the one thing the Cardinals can do, especially at home, is they get off to fast starts. And if they do that, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams to try and come back. And that Bears offense is not as lethal as the Cardinals are. They're much better defensively. I mean, the Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a higher scoring game because of that, but we'll see there in Arizona. All right, this game got flexed out of Sunday night into the late window. I'll go first. I realize I haven't gone first yet, so let me go first in this one. Andrew Catalon, Tiki Barber, Jason McCourty, AJ Ross special on CBS as Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars take on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. The Eagles over a touchdown favorite, and yeah, that doesn't bother me. I'm taking the Eagles minus the 7.5 here because the Jaguars are just a mess. They continue to be a mess all around. And the Eagles, listen, got to be fair. They are fine. They are continuing to improve all around. I mean, whatever was concerning me with them a few weeks ago is definitely gone. Has definitely disappeared. That's what I'm trying to say. So, it is just a mess. The Jaguar defense is awful. I think the Eagles could easily put up 30 points in this game for sure. And the Jaguars, they're not going to be able to keep up with them. I think the only question mark I have with this game is, will the Eagles score in the first quarter for the first time in 2024? They haven't done that yet. I think they will in this.
That's a great question. So, that's a great question.
I'm going to take Doug Peterson's former team over Doug Peterson's current team in Philadelphia. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the Eagles too. The Jaguars just stink. Pretty much, it's been a broken record for them every single week. Yeah, the Eagles are just starting to click right now. And I know the first couple games, they really weren't playing anybody. But, of course, going to Cincinnati, a defense that's been fairly, serviceable for a while. That's pretty impressive to have. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are just the massive deal breakers. When you have those two guys on the outside, I think just their offense is a lot more explosive. Saquon Barkley, of course, is a threat in the backfield. And the Jaguars, Christian Kirk is now out for the year, so Trevor Lawrence loses a weapon. And, yeah, their defense is just a mess. So this is an easy cover for the Eagles here. Take the money.
Yeah, Christian Kirk was somebody that was actually rumored to be on the trade block by Tuesday, and now he's out for the season. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, this is obvious. There's not much explanation here. Eagles cover. I just think their offense is way better. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I thought Doug Peterson was going to get fired weeks ago, and he's still head coach. I still think he will get fired at some point. Because this team is a dysfunctional mess. And obviously with the situation of them running offense, he just has no idea what's going on there. in that offensive scheme. And Trevor Lawrence, who they paid all this money to, giving him $55 million a year, has not looked great. Now, is that his fault or is that the coaching staff's fault? They're all going to point fingers at each other. So there's really no answer to this. This is obvious. I think the Eagles are going to score 30 to 35 points. I have the number here. The over-under is 45.5. I think the Eagles are going to cover most of that over-under when they play the game. So this is an obvious. Take them up.
Grant?
I mean, so here's the thing. I'm gonna make this my lock of the week because the Jaguars are just a dumpster fire. But I have another game that I'm gonna talk about that I was considering for my lock of the week, just because of how great great the team has been playing. But you have Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley in your backfield. Jalen Hurts is a threat to run or pass the ball, and then you also have Saquon Barkley. So how do you know when to defend Hurts and when to defend Saquon? And then you have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And their defense has looked all right. So I mean, lock of the week. Eagles did kill the Jaguars.
There you go, Anthony.
Yeah, Jaguars suck. I know Trevor Lawrence has been playing better, so it's not necessarily all his fault. Brian Thomas Jr., the one bright spot, is dealing with a chest injury, so hopefully he can play. I said everything I needed to say about the Eagles earlier. They got some young players in the secondary. He's been playing better. Jalen Hurts in the offense with Barkley, Smith, and A.J. Brown's all clicking. So Eagles winning cover.
All right. Ben, a Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi special on Fox. This is one of my favorite games of the week. It is the Detroit Lions heading to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers, and the Lions a field goal favorite.
Oh man, yeah, this one is massively tough. Both teams have been playing really, really well, but something tells me I'm going with Detroit here. The Lions have just been very, very consistent as of late. They don't turn the ball over a lot. Jared Goff's been playing magnificent. Jordan Love, of course, has been playing well, but I do think out of the two quarterbacks, Goff has been more consistent. Something tells me that the Lions defense, I know that without Aiden Hutchinson, people thought it was going to take a step back. I think it's still been okay. It's really tough, but I'm going to take the Lions here. I know Packers are a really good home team, but they're kind of due for a loss at home as well. And if there's any team that could beat them at their turf, it'd probably be Detroit right now. So I'm going to take the Lions here, the money.
Nick?
So this is a really tough game. Like Ben said, like Jordan Love got knocked down like really badly quite a few times last week, and I thought he was going to get carted off the field after one of those injuries that he was down on the sideline, because I think they said he had like a groin injury situation that he was dealing with.
Yes.
The Packers have been playing really well. The Lions have been playing pretty well. I just think that Lambeau just really matters. I think it's a tough place to go into and play. And I just think Jordan Love has really had more of a spark this year. So I'm going full upset with taking the Packers at home.
Grant?
So this was my other option for my lock of the week. But, it's just, both teams are playing so good that it could go either way. But with me as a Bears fan, I will never outright say the Packers should win unless they play the Panthers, the Titans, or the Patriots. So I'm going to take the Lions to win and cover. Screw the Cheeseheads. Sorry, Jack again.
He's got the Lions. Anthony, what do you have?
Who's up?
Anthony, what do you got?
Yeah, what a great matchup. I mean, the best division in all football in the NFC North, the top two teams. Detroit's got one loss, Green Bay's got two losses. So pretty much the winner of this is going to be first place in the best division in all football. Being the home team, the way they've been playing, I want to go with the Packers. It feels like, they're due for a win. Everything's been going the Lions' way, and that Aiden Hutchinson injury hasn't hurt him yet. And I feel like this would be the game where that injury could finally come back to harm, and that pass rush, they will need that against Jordan Love and those receivers. But now with Jordan Love dealing with this injury, I can't go with the Packers without 100% Jordan Love, because you're going to need 100% Jordan Love to beat this Lions team who is clicking on all cylinders. Jared Goff can't seem to miss a throw no matter what he does. The Lions secondary has been pretty top notch. They got the best safety duo in all football with Branson Joseph. So because of the injury with Jordan Love, whether he plays, he's not going to be 100%. So I'm going to go with the Lions to win cover.
Yeah, Anthony, that is why I've been hesitating all day with this game, because if we were here right now and I could tell you that Jordan Love was definitely a go, then I would take the Packers, but he is so legitimately questionable that it's tough to figure out if he's going to go. And then also they're calling for rain there at Lambeau Field on Sunday, so that's gonna affect him too. And if he was a full go and if he was mostly healthy, I absolutely would be taking the Packers, because the one way you can beat the Lions is on their pass defense. It's 27th in the NFL. But if that means that Malik Willis is going to go, I'm not as confident. I know he's done it before, but I'm not as confident with Malik Willis starting. But I do think this game is going to there are going to be some points in this one. And I know that the Packers were able to do this against the Texans, but the Lions are better offensively than the Texans are. So I think they're a greater threat. And if Jair Alexander is indeed out too, I think that puts even more pressure on them. So they've gone into Lambeau and won the last 2 years as well. I think it continues here. I am taking the Lions minus the 3 there in Green Bay.
And
yes,
just really quickly, you never want to mess with a groin injury. Groin injuries are I mean, not obviously the worst injury, but they're lingering injuries. So if you play on it, you risk making it worse. So
right, and we've already seen that Jordan Love's come back from that MCL sprain awfully quick too, and he looked rusty when he first came back from that, but he's definitely found his form. And especially if they're calling for rain there at Lambeau Field on Sunday, the last thing you want to be doing is playing in wet conditions like that. So this was such a close call, and I'm not getting the extra half a point either. So that's why both teams. The thing is also both teams pretty much are due for a cool down game, but I think this is going to be an entertaining one. But I still think the Lions have enough to win it at the end of the day. So that's why I'm going to go with the Lions. Anthony, it's a Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Megan O'Leary special on Fox. It is Matt Stafford and the Rams heading to Lumen Field to take on Geno Smith and the Seahawks, and the Rams a 1-point favorite.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Rams to win, and obviously cover because it's a -1. But obviously, yeah, I'm going with the Rams to win. I think that they're trending upwards. Their defensive line has been really, really improving with Jared Verse and the crew, Kobe Turner as well, and Seattle. DK Metcalf I don't think he's going to play in this game most likely, and I haven't really trusted Geno Smith. He's been very inconsistent turning the ball over. And like I said, now you got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back. I know Puka Nacua has another injury he's possibly dealing with, but still, with Kyrene Williams, this Rams team is really starting to go, I think, on a run, potentially maybe even fight for a possible win in the NFC West. So I'm going to go with the Rams to win.
By the way, DK Metcalf is out Sunday, and they're on their bye week next week. Yeah, and they're on their bye week.
Noah Fant's out too.
Yeah. The Rams are actually reminding me a lot of the 2023 Rams, because you remember they got off to a slow start, a lot of injuries, and those guys got healthy, and they took off from there, and you're starting to see that again here. Yeah, I love the Rams in this game, guys, because, it's a tricky spot going to Seattle, Lumen Field. But this Seahawks team is not a threatening team right now. I mean, they've had to deal with and are still a lot of a challenging stretch to deal with as well. A lot of challenging opposing quarterbacks. Their defense has been totally outclassed for the most part this season, except that game in Atlanta. This is a dangerous Rams offense, and you factor in without a key offensive player for the Seahawks. I think the Rams go up there and win on Sunday. Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams. Like you guys were mentioning, Seattle's losing some of their weapons right now. DK's going to be out. Noah Fant's going to be out. Really wasn't impressed with them. I really haven't really been impressed with them outside of that week in Atlanta ever since the first couple of weeks that Seattle had. Geno's definitely came back down to earth for a little while, and Anthony's Bills defense played really well against them last week in Seattle. So I don't really think that Seattle is really clicking right now, and the Rams are starting to click. So I'm taking the Rams here with the money.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think the Rams win. The injuries alone, Noah Fant, DK Metcalf, their offense is going to be a struggle. And to depend on Geno Smith to put all the offense on his shoulders, I think is a disaster waiting to happen at the same time. So, yeah, I'm taking the Rams to win and cover.
And Grant?
Yeah, I mean, everyone agrees the Rams are going to win this game. I mean, so Puka Nacua has his little hamstring problem, but reports have came out, that said, he should be fine to handle his full workload and shouldn't have much of a problem, and he came back like being activated from the 21 day or the 21 day practice window. Like he came into that game like knowing he'd play like an hour before he played, and then goes for 6 receptions, 100 yards. I mean that's a great first game back. So
impressive.
So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He's gonna play and he's gonna have a good game. And I mean, having him and Cooper Kupp, you're already screwed. I mean, the dude had 1,500 yards last year as a 6th round draft pick.
Yeah, 5th or 6th rounder. Yeah. Yeah, and don't remind me, I took the Vikings on that Thursday night game, and of course, as I make that pick, I find out that, Nacua, he's active. Oh, that's great. I knew I was going to lose that one.
Yeah, I found that out too.
Yeah, it was after we all made our picks, I'm sure, because it came out at like an hour before kickoff, but, that's football. So we're all going with the Rams there at Lumen Field. All right, Sunday Night Football on NBC. Nick, it's Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark on NBC. It's the Indianapolis Colts with new official rest of the season starter Joe Flacco heading to Minnesota to take on Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, and it's the Vikings laying 5 points.
So this one I actually had a hot take about Anthony Richardson and the way that's a joke, by the way, that he had to tell his head coach, I'm too tired to be in the game, and he had to be taken out of the game. Like, what is this? Are we not ready to play football? Like, I don't know what's going on with the guy, but I don't think he's really an NFL-style quarterback, to be honest, too. I think there's a lot of issues. I think the Colts sunk in a little too much on this guy, and now I think they're in trouble, and they're going to have to find a new quarterback. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to be against it, but if you have to put Joe Flacco in over a guy that was supposed to be high up level into the NFL, it's a problem. And I think there's turmoil and issues going on behind the scenes with the Colts that we don't know enough about. Easily take the Vikings. I think this is possibly going to be a 2-touchdown victory, at least, just because I think the Colts are blown up in smoke right now.
By the way, Nick, I don't think that's a reach what you said there for sure. I remember you and I spoke about when we were on the draft coverage 2 years ago, and really his stock rose because of the combine. I mean, he was he only played 13 games in college before he was drafted, so it's really not that much of a Grant, what do you have? So
let me start off with this. I mean, there is no excuse for saying, oh, I need to sit out the rest of the game. I am exhausted. I didn't get any sleep last night or anything like that. And I know that's not what I'm saying, but like, I mean, it was the same thing with that, I hate to be the bearer of the bad Jets, but I hate, I think of when Zach Wilson was drafted. He had that one throw at his pro day that made him go from probably a 6th-round draft pick to the 2nd overall draft pick in the 2018 draft. You need more than 1 year of football to show NFL teams that you are a pro-style quarterback. I hope that Richardson figures his crap out. And you have 5, 320 to 350 pound linemen risking their life, every snap of the game, so you don't get hurt, so you can help them win, and you're going to be the guy that says, "Oh, I'm exhausted. Let me get a time on the bench." What the hell what's going on with you? So I will easily take the Vikings here.
Anthony?
Yeah, for the Anthony Richardson benching, obviously, he didn't really get a lot of starts. Didn't even really play most of last year because of injury. But I feel like my quarterback in Buffalo, Josh Allen, has caused a lot of this. A lot of quarterbacks, when they come out of college, if you're not completing 60% in college, you're probably not going to be a very accurate quarterback in the NFL. Most of those guys don't make it. That's why when the Buffalo Bills drafted Josh Allen, I was a little upset because I'm like, this guy can't complete passes in, a group of 5 conference. How is he going to be able to beat the New York Jets and New England Patriots? Well, I was definitely proven wrong. But now that's given teams a reason to draft guys like Anthony Richardson, thinking, hey, Josh Allen was able to fix his accuracy issues. Maybe we could do that with this guy. You got a guy 6'4", 240 pounds, running a 4.4 with a cannon arm. You can see why teams would fall in love with him. But at the end of the day, he hasn't made the progression. He's not a very accurate quarterback. He's just relying on athletic ability. And right now, Joe Flacco, does give this team a better chance to win. He opens up the passing attack. He gets guys like Josh Downs and Alex Spears more involved in the game. On the Vikings end, I think Christian Dallashaw, the injury at tackle, definitely hurts them. You've seen how the Rams were able to use their defensive line and really beat up Sam Darnold. I just don't think the Colts have the pass rush or the defense to exploit that. So I'm going to go with the Vikings to win and cover.
Anthony, just a little thing that you might not have read. Cam Robinson, the left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, was traded from the Jaguars to the Vikings. So the Vikings did take care of that little Darrisaw issue for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was a good move.
Yeah, so
For a 7th-round draft pick that's chump change, but that's probably because of his $60 million cap hit. Would be my guess.
Despite Anthony Richardson's struggles last week, his completion percentage, the Colts were in that game last week and actually almost won it. So now you add Joe Flacco in, who energizes that offense. I'm taking the Colts +5. I still think the Vikings will win, but I think it's going to be inside this number here because I think he'll energize this offense. The Vikings come off 2 losses in a row. My concern with saying all that now is that the Colts left tackle is out, and that's going to be a problem against the Viking pass rush. But I definitely could see Flacco and the offense getting a boost here, and I think they make it a game here. Like I said, I think the Vikings come back to earth a little bit here. So I think it will be inside of this number, but I'll take the Colts +5, but I'll say the Vikings still win. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings here. I think that, they're a really good team at home. I know that obviously that the Colts, Joe Flacco, is a much better situation than Anthony Richardson. I don't know if you guys saw that Cam Newton then on his podcast, pretty much kind of calling out Anthony Richardson for pretty much saying that he was a ready type of quarterback, and something the fact of like the NFL has been easy to him. And now essentially this was kind of a while back, kind of when he got drafted. And now obviously he's barely even finishing these games now, which is it's very ironic apparently, I guess. So yeah, I like the Vikings here. And I have them to cover. Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, just their offense has been too much for a lot of teams. But I think the Colts are going to keep it close, like you mentioned, Johnny. I don't think that the Colts are going to find a way to cover this, but it's going to be really close, just pretty much right outside the number here. So I'm going to have the Vikings here to cover.
All right. Anthony, I'm sorry, let me go to Grant. Grant, one more game this week on Monday Night Football on ESPN. We've got Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters It's Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on Patrick Mahomes and the undefeated 7-0 Kansas City Chiefs. And at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, it's the Chiefs a 9-point favorite.
This is the hardest decision of the week for me, because the Chiefs, I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They got, the holy grail of quarterbacks. They probably have a more well-adjusted DeAndre Hopkins, who was traded last week and played 30 snaps or whatever. But the problem is the Buccaneers have been playing so good without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And that is all because of the magic man, Baker Mayfield. But I just don't see the Chiefs losing. So I am going to take the Chiefs to win, but I don't think they cover. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win, but this won't be a 10-point game.
All right, Anthony?
Yeah, I know this is a lot of points to give up, but Baker Mayfield does turn the ball over a lot, especially when he doesn't have help at wide receiver. And right now, because of injuries, this team has been decimated at the wide receiver position. And with Kansas City, with Trent McDuffie and Chris Jones being at home, I just think that's a perfect game for them to win by double digits. Mayfield's going to have a couple turnovers because he's going to be forced in throws because he's going to have to try to put this team on his back. Kansas City is going to obviously take advantage of those turnovers. DeAndre Hopkins will probably be more involved in this game. So until they lose, I'm not going to pick against them anymore. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win and cover.
Grant's 100% right, by the way. Baker Mayfield, despite the fact that Godwin and Evans have been out, they still are putting up points, and he's still doing a great job. So that gives you hope.
He's the number one quarterback in fantasy right now.
Right. So that would give you hope in this game, right?
It's because of my dad that I said that made this decision difficult, because he told me that he's the number one quarterback in fantasy, and I wasn't looking at the stats or anything, but when he told me that yesterday, I was like, well, wow, like he's making something out of nothing, kind of with the missing pieces of Evans and Godwin.
But there's a but to this, though.
Sure, there's always a but.
In that same time frame, the Bucs defense has been awful. They've given up 30 points in 3 of the last 4 games. The Chief offense is coming alive. The Chief defense has been a force all season long. And, I know the Chiefs struggle a lot to cover, even at home. But this is a tall task, asking Baker Mayfield to pretty much outplay Patrick Mahomes. That's basically what you're asking for. And I think this line is almost begging you to take the Buccaneers. I know Nick D and I spoke about this before, and he did take the Bucs plus the points. It's a line that's begging you to take the Bucs, right? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the Chiefs. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think Anthony's right. I think it is a double-digit win here for sure. But I see the signs that are tempting you to take the Bucs, almost like the signs that are tempting you to take the Broncos from the early window on Sunday. But I'm going the other way here, and I think the Chiefs are going to win this game by double digits and improve to 8-0 on Monday night. Yep, here it is. Ben?
Yeah, I like the Chiefs here. I wish I didn't have to keep saying that every single week, Chiefs, when they're playing against someone, but it's the reality. They're the best team in football for a reason. And I would consider the Bucs to cover that spread if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were playing, but they're not, and they're not going to be without them for a while. However, Baker looked a lot better without them than I expected last week against a pretty good secondary for Atlanta. So it's kind of tough, but when you're going to a place in Arrowhead, it just feels like a house of horrors right now at this point in time for a lot of quarterbacks. especially at night for some odd reason. Mahomes, on Monday Night Football, he probably has a very good record as well in terms of wins and losses. So it's really hard to bet against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, especially at home. So I'm taking the Chiefs and the cover.
All right, Nick, you're the last one for this week. What do you got?
Yeah, so I like the Chiefs. I was a little back and forth because, again, I don't like spreads 9, 10 plus. I've been on the record with that a million times. I do agree with partially a lot of things that Grant has said. The reason, though, that he has so many yards is because I feel like he has to force throws down the field because he's always third and long because of the penalties committed by the offense. And that's the reason why he's pushed so far back behind the sticks. And that's the reason why he's getting chunks of yardage as much as he is, because if he doesn't throw, they're not able to get the ball down the field. So that's part of the reason why he's gaining so many yards from an offensive perspective. Their defense stinks. Like, it's awful. Like, Baker is the reason why they win some of these games, because he literally has to throw for 350, 400 yards in some of these games just to keep them in. But the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. Now, I will say also, to be fair, the Chiefs have been lucky on some of these games that they've won. I understand they're 7-0, and a win's a win, and the win column is the only thing that matters. But I wouldn't say the Chiefs are like a perfect 7-0 to be real fair. But I was originally leaning towards Buccaneers +9, but I just think Godwin and Evans and those injuries, and them being a massive disaster in the wide receiver room, they just don't have the offense to keep up with Chris Jones on the defensive side and everybody else on the defensive side. So I'm taking the Chiefs to cover.
All right, and with that puts a wrap on Week 9, guys.
Yeah, we made it through the week. Johnny, great to have you back. We're going to see a lot more throughout the rest of the season.
Yes, sir.
Grant, great to have you back also, and
Thank you.
that you recovered
Thank you,
from everything. So we're a full healthy group heading into the home stretch.
Yes.
I can't believe we're heading for Week 10, double-digit weeks next week.
I can't. I mean, I cannot believe that it's so. The football season goes by too fast, and it's because we love it so much that it goes by too fast. I mean, if there was a way to slow it down, I would totally do that, because even though there is basically no off season for football,
Not
because
anymore.
there's always some sort of news. There's always one breaking story. But, if we could have, I mean, this is never going to happen, but if we could have year-round football, I'd be one of the happiest boys in America.
Well,
we kind of do, but it doesn't work though.
are you talking about those other leagues?
Year-round games. I'm sorry. Year-round.
You do have the spring leagues, but I'll be honest with you, they're not like legitimate real football.
Yeah.
Any other form of football, like XFL or Fan Ran or whatever, that's not football.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I'm going to cut off here because we got to finish. But make sure you go follow us on social media at TFB Forecast ETB on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We put out the Thursday picks, the Sunday night picks, the hot takes of the week, a new one we started doing, Crybaby of the Week. Yeah, don't ask. That came up with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys a couple weeks ago.
Good one.
Him every week.
Yeah, you could. But just make sure you catch all that stuff and you catch all our picks and everything that's out there as well. If you want to watch on the video side, youtube.com/ETB Network to find this show and all the other shows that everybody else does here, which are scrolling across the bottom as I'm finishing up the show here. So make sure you follow everybody that's a part of the show. And if you can't watch on the video side, listen on the audio side, wherever you get your podcast, we will be there. So make sure you check us out, whether you're going to take our picks or you're going to fade our picks, because some people have done that to me already. I can tell you off the air, a bunch of people faded my picks. And then also just remember the Football Forecast and the network presented by Playback. We do have a stream tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday, which will include the Knicks and I think the Celtics and the Warriors actually also on Wednesday. So playback.tv/ETB Network as well. So for everybody here at the Football Forecast and the ETB Network, enjoy the football, enjoy Week 9, and we will be back for Week 10 next week, same time, same place. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.